Hey everyone, welcome back and welcome in if you're new here. My name is Kay and today I have a double one for you. I'm going to feature ILNP's Playground and Brunch Collection, which they sent over to me as PR.
Thank you.
But I do want to start with a Brunch Collection. That one features 4 studio colors, and then we'll jump into the Playground, which is the completely opposite vibe. That one has 6 nail polishes in mixed finishes, and it just has a completely different energy, which you're going to notice in the swatches. So let's go ahead and get into it. Let's swatch them out. Let's talk about them. And then I'll be back to share my final impressions. Pistachio. Before we get into it, some of you know that I recently broke my nail, but I did put on a fake, so today I'll be swatching over that. So we're starting off the Sesh with Pistachio, which ILNP describes as a soft pistachio green, and I do think that's a really appropriate description. There's certainly a good amount of yellow and warmth in this green tone, but in no way, shape, or form does it even come close to touching neon territory. This is a very mellow color that stays within the boundaries of those traditional soft spring tones, which we know to be seasonally appropriate for this time of year. I think that if you're a green lover and you were looking for a muted or dusty version of a lime green, then this is one you may want to look into. Oob. Next up, we have the only purple of this 4-piece set, which ILNP describes as a milky lavender, although that description to me feels more reminiscent of a much lighter tone of lavender, and this one has a slight dusty or muted quality, at least in my eyes. Now, when it comes to the actual application, it is a very self-leveling. I would say this is a very beginner-friendly formula, also because of that real nice wide style brush and the opacity, which is pretty amazing, although I did apply 2 coats, but here is my end result. This is just so creamy. Oob just feels serene and gentle on the eyes. It kind of feels like a soft spring awakening, but on the nails. Short stack. Moving on to a very different color described as a soft maple beige, and that was quite interesting to me. I actually had to look that up, to be honest, because this color falls in an area of the color wheel that I am incredibly unfamiliar with since, it's not really my vibe. Now, initially, when I saw this polish, I immediately categorized it as a nude color, which is probably not completely wrong either. And I think that this one is going to attract those of you who enjoy palette cleansers, nude colors, or maybe you're just looking for a polish that I would specifically describe as having a sand-ish type of tone. Patisserie. The last of the Brunch Collection is going to be Patisserie, which is a warm coral shade. Now, I do appreciate how this polish infuses just the right amount of vividness into this collection. I think it's quite easy for orange-leaning shades to feel bright, even if they're actually not. I don't know, that's just something my mind tends to attribute to orangey type of colors. Now, Patisserie is really no different when it comes to formulation. It applies just as smoothly and lays down as evenly as its brunch siblings. I can't help but feel a little zest here, even though it does stay safely within the gentle color theme that makes up this brunch collection. Caterpillar. And now we switch over to the Playground Collection. Let's run on over to that swing set, but watch out for that caterpillar. I love caterpillars, so this shade actually feels so wholesome to me. It starts off with a green jelly base seasoned with holographic flakes that appear to be micro-sized. Notice that green tone though, it's quite deep and it could definitely be described as dark, especially when you layer the second coat, which I'm doing here. At this point, you should see a really decent scattering of those hollow flakies, and you may get a glimpse of some very subtle pops of rainbow, but it will be minimal unless you allow some strong direct lighting to bless your nail and force those colorful sparkles to come through. When it comes to the sparkle meter, personally, I'd say this falls into the mild category. Also, the more I look at this polish, the more I see it as being very Christmas-like. Recess. Next up, we have a very bold, eye-addicting shade of red that is described as a primary red color. Now, just like Caterpillar, we do have a jelly base as a foundation. However, this time the flaky elements are iridescent and large in size. They also seem to shift between orange, yellow, and red tones. Now, this polish is incredibly eager to show off that brightness, which comes through perfectly on the second coat, as do those flakies. And those flakies do disperse off the brush at a fair pace. They do settle on the nail nicely and pretty evenly. Now, if you're looking for visible nail line, you're sadly not really gonna get that with Recess because this jelly is buildable, meaning it builds up opacity with each coat, so the nail line is essentially gone by the second coat, but you're still gonna get that squishy jelly factor. Scribbles. Next up, I want to show you this really fun formula, which is a speckled type of finish that starts off with a sky blue base that is quite high on the opacity scale. This is certainly not a jelly, as you can see in this first coat, but within it we have blue metallic flakes in a smaller size than those in Recess, for example, but we also have a light pinch of hollow. I think this polish is adorable. It just has this playful innocence to it, and honestly, it's just something that I would have never laid on my nails, so it's quite refreshing to me. But girl, that pinch of hollow is barely noticeable, which is okay. I understand that it wasn't given the main character role, but it's also quite lost in there, even with the addition of strong direct light. So if you like the idea of having hollow in this formula, I would actually recommend you add it in as a topper, and ILNP has many that you can look into. But overall, what a cool little surprise to swatch. I really wasn't expecting to be so amused by this one. Peekaboo. I thought this one would have a sun-related name due to its particular appearance, but what we have here is a flaky shimmer polish, which starts off with a yellow jelly foundation that is housing an absolute abundance of smaller size yellow iridescent flakies. The initial application can look a bit untamed and messy. Remember that we're mostly counting on those small flaky particles for opacity, so more layers will get the job done, and you can see that at this point where I'm finalizing that second and last coat. This is such a blatant yellow color that it might inevitably attract or repel you. Personally though, I do love the addition of the shimmers. I think it creates a really nice speckled shine throughout the nail that really enhances the end result. Adrian. I am so sorry for this unsatisfying first swipe because I bumped my hand into something, but Adrian is actually the only magnetic of this collection, which makes it a little more special. I am gonna swatch it unmagnetized first and then move on to showing you two other styles. So we start off with a deep azure blue base, and within it we get icy blue magnetic pigments. That first coat really blanketed my nail, but I am gonna move on to a second just to perfect it. Now at this point, you can already see how pretty this polish looks unmagnetized. Those elements play so well together that one could say the polish was just made to be worn this way. But the magnet is begging me for a chance, so here I have the cat eye effect, which is pulling me in just like those icy blue particles are pulled in cleanly towards the center of the nail. I think this is a blue lover's dream, and the tone of blue that we get here is at a sweet spot, not too bright but not too dark. So let's velvetize it, which in a way combines both the bright and dark aspects of this polish, because head on you see the flash of icy bright blue, while at angles you see the depth of that azure tone. This is probably one of the top ways to make one color look extremely interesting. Building blocks. This next polish that I'm gonna swatch for you combines maturity and playfulness, or at least That's how I see it, because it starts off with a creamy beige base that is very opaque. It's very similar to the type of base that we saw in Scribbles. And within it, we have a super cute assortment of red, yellow, green, and blue metallic flakies in what I would call a smaller size. Notice how even though I'm on the second layer, the opacity of the base doesn't prevent us from seeing those colorful flakies, and those flakies do manage to flatten out nicely, creating a smooth end result along with that beige base. Now, if you're curious about how this beige compares to Short Stack, here's the side by side. That one has a noticeable sandy or tan leaning beige color compared to Building Blocks, which is brighter. And even though I don't see myself reaching for these types of colors, I do appreciate the little drizzle of flaky fun that we got in Building Blocks. Personally, I'd say the Brunch Collection feels like a continuation of ILNP's Floral Shop, which was their last collection. The Brunch Collection colors still feel very soft, very gentle. They're still quiet. They're still whispering, much like the colors in the Floral Shop. But if you're ready to just dive into color, then the playground is where it's at. That one definitely has the energy of a more established spring season. We definitely get like the revival of color, but also the revival of ILNP once again playing with fun elements, which I love to see because I do love me some fun elements. I like fun nail polish. All right, both of these collections drop on Friday, February 27th. And if on that day you just had money to get one nail polish, I would go with Adrian. What a cool magnetic. I am starting to really like these magnetics that are like one color. You know, it's a blue base with blue magnetic particles, and it just looks so cool. If you had money for two, I would go with Oob, which, hey, it matches my jacket. Yeah, Oob is actually an exact, you guys can't really tell here, maybe you can hear, but it's like an exact match to this coat. Huh. All right, if you had money for three, I would add in Recess. Very, very bold, very striking, definitely strong spring, established spring vibes. So that is gonna wrap up today's sesh. Thank you so much for tuning in while I swatched out. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching so much. Thank you for watching my video. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you.